to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne.
Hello, Mrs. Z, are you there? Oh, I'm just at the wrong time with this Mrs. Z. Okay. Something's going on. Yeah, we lost it. It went all funny. It went all
The
crazy.
tech, yeah, the technical glitches behind the scenes sometimes can be so funny,
I tell
but that's part of the journey. And the beautiful thing is we get to learn every day as we do this event. With that, we'll say happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our Positivity live stream, a place where positivity is a catalyst for us to thrive and excel in everything that we do. So if you are joining us, kindly drop a comment, tell us where you are joining us from all over the world, because we believe that we have a global audience here. We have people from all over the world who join us on this event every Friday to help us bring intentional positivity to every corners of the world, 1 million people at a time using the power of media. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Depending on where you are joining us from all over the world, we say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, as the case may be. I will say welcome again, welcome. Yes, for us, it's a privilege to be here, and it's a continuation of a powerful conversation we'll be having for about a week now that talks about faith. And last week we dealt on the topic faith, on what faith is and how it can impact our life, impact our businesses, impact our relationship, all way around. And we said, we're talking about faith is not just enough. It's not just enough to talk about faith and call it a day. We have to bring in the other part of faith, which is action. And that's why today's topic is centered on where faith meets action. Because why? They go hand in hand. If you have faith, there has to be action. And if there's an action you are taking, you have to have faith as well. So you cannot choose one and leave the other. You have to choose both together. And that's why we are bringing this conversation to you today. And for anyone under the sound of our voice, feel free on all social media platforms. We appreciate you. For those joining us from on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, we say a big welcome to you. And you know how we do it here. It's always a privilege where everyone is given the opportunity to share. Everyone is given the opportunity to express themselves and amplify their voices. Because if there's one thing that we believe on, it's that everyone has a voice and everyone has something special to say. So we invite you to join us on stage because we believe that what you have to say today has the power to encourage somebody, has the power to change the world, has the power to give somebody hope and faith to keep living their life. For us, we are a testament of the power of faith, of what it means to have faith, and then the faith transforms into reality. And we know that it's not just enough to have faith, there is need for us to back up our faith with action. And that's how we say this topic is a conversation that resonates with each and every one of us. And I believe that as we dive into this conversation today, we are going to be learning a lot from each other, and especially from our guests who will be joining us on stage to dive in and share their insight and thoughts on this conversation. So for those who don't know me, you are meeting me for the very first time. It's a privilege to meet you. And I say welcome again to our Positivity Live event that holds every Friday. Every Friday, this event comes in. And then on the last Friday of every month, we do what we call our gratitude week. So welcome. My name is Zion Enogiero. I'm Mr. Positive Energy, a man on a mission to spread positivity to every corner of the earth, 1 million person at a time. I'm a positivity coach and mentor. I help entrepreneurs and businessmen and women embrace the power of positivity to ignite their career and to ignite their businesses. So if you're struggling to stay positive, you're struggling to have that energy to keep moving on, feel free, reach out to me. Let's go on a journey of positivity together. Or you are somebody out there, you have a value you are giving, you're making an impact, you have a message you want to share. but you don't have the visibility, you don't have the network, you don't have the platform to share your voice. We do that as well. We help people amplify their voices, to share their message, to reach out to more people using the power of events. So we help people host events, put all the logistics together. All you have to do, come in and share to impact more people and allow people to be inspired with your powerful message. So that's what we do. And if you want to work with us, reach out to us on LinkedIn and Zion and Ogeru and feel free. Let's have a conversation because we believe that in the power of communication. When we communicate, there's so much possibilities that are with us. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic to my co-host, Mr. Enning, who is already with me on stage so that he can introduce himself and tell us what he does.
Say welcome everyone. So I see many of our friends are here. So Alexis is here, my super editor. How you doing? So you also see Dr. Paula is here as well. Dr. Paula Washington, amazing author, business strategist, and all-round a genius that helps you get unstuck. I see Linda's here as well. Welcome all of you. LinkedIn user, I have no idea who LinkedIn user is because I can't see your name. Please put your name in the comments so I can welcome you properly. And I said, but welcome all, of course. Now, if you don't know me, which you may not, is that possible, Mr. Z? Is it possible? I'm Enio Sung. My mission in life is to help people, I guess, to get seen, heard, and to impact more people. So I tend to work with geniuses, hence I mentioned my friends. I work with people who have unique solutions that the world needs. I say, I will do many things to help you get seen, heard, and for people to like you, trust you, I want to do business with you. So on a good day, I will spend my days writing books, publishing books, marketing books. That's what I spend my days doing most of the time. But that extends on even better days where I get to put my author friends, on bestseller lists. So we tend to, we have a guaranteed #1 bestseller service if your book's on Amazon. And also, we are now working to put our author friends on stage where you can be a public speaker. There's many things that we get to do, and it comes down to faith, really. There's many more things we do, Mrs. Z, which so I guess another one worth mentioning is I'm keen to leverage my friend's geniuses, Geni, to empower people to transform their lives. That's why this room's here, right? But we also do workshops, we do master classes, and we do those events where you can really learn how to do the things that really count, the things that would change your life and your business. Hey, look, if I can help you, then let's talk. Even if I can't help you, I'd love to know what you do. I'd love to know what your genius is. And then we can see whether we support each other on this journey called life. That's me. I think I said a good friend. I heard a beep. I heard a noise. So I don't know. Okay, maybe it was you that fell off and came back in, Mrs. Z. Seems to be right. Look, as you can see on screen, if you want to join the studio, please do. Join us to share how faith becomes a reality and a tool, a resource in your life. That's what faith in action means, right? I see many more people as well. So I see Alavine is here. No, Marie, sorry, Marie. Sorry, I'm looking at a different icon. So I'm glad you're here. Welcome. I see Dr. Lisa is here as well. I'm Menopause Genius. Thank you for joining us. Alison, Alison is a LinkedIn user, I think. So welcome. I think she sent me a message earlier about her new venture, iBiz. So IBIZ. Do check it out. Find out how it can help your business as well. Mrs. Z, I give the mic back to you, my friend.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Enning, and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. If we are not able to call out your name, it simply means we are not seeing it from our end. But as long as we can see your name, we are going to shout you out. Why? Because you're the superstar. You're our MVP. You are very important to us. You're our celebrity. So we're going to take out the time to shout you out and let the world know that you are here with us. So do not forget anyone who wants to join us on stage, want to be part of the conversation. That's the link. That's the link. Click on it. It's going to bring you on the backstage so you can join in and share with us. Like I said earlier, what you have to share today has the power to encourage somebody. This is the essence of this event. To bring all our stories together, to spread more positivity, to inspire more people, to encourage more people, and let more people know that they are not alone on this journey. There are people who have gone through this same experience, who are going through it right now, or who are about to go through the experience. So the ability for us to bring our stories and share it makes a huge difference. Last week we began the conversation already where we spoke about faith in business, the power of faith. And for me, I extensively spoke about my faith in God, how trusting God has really helped me to thrive in my business, to build relationship, to get to know people. And because I trust God, it gives me the ability to trust people as well. But today, we are not just ending there, we are taking the conversation forward. And that's why we're talking about where faith meets actions. Because it will be so unfair for us to talk about faith alone and don't bring the action part into it. Because I tell you, no matter how strong your faith is, there is a place for you to do. There's a place for you to take action. There is a place for you to move your hand, move your legs, to go do something. Imagine you bought a new clothes and you imagine the clothes on you. It looks good in the imagination, but it takes you to put on the clothes for you to really see the beauty and the fitness of the clothes. So you just thinking about the clothes is not enough, but taking action. Or you want a cup of coffee and the cup of coffee is just right in front of you. You can imagine drinking the cup of coffee by faith. But for the cup of coffee to truly be in your mouth, there has to be a movement. There has to be an action that has to be done. So also in life and in business. A lot of us we dream about big businesses, we dream about impact, we dream about influence, we dream about making more money, we dream about having a voice to reach out to more people, to inspire more people, which is good. And you believe in it so much. But as time goes on, it's not enough to just believe. There is need for us to take action. I'm going to share a quick story. And I know Mr. N is familiar with this one because me coming on the online space, he was one of the few persons I met. And we had discussion. I tell you, all I had at that point was my faith. I had the mindset to inspire people, to encourage people. But then just believing wasn't enough. There was need for me to take action, to show up every day, to be consistent, to support other people, to show up for other persons, and to tell people what I do. And by so doing, from a place of believing, it has become a reality. There's a place for us to do work. He said, faith is powerful, but what makes faith visible is the action that we take. Because for every thought you have, they are all in your mind, they are all in your brain. But the ability for us to bring that thought to visibility, to bring that thought into reality, is for us taking action. Now, imagine this event. It was planned last week that yes, this Friday we are going to show up. We believed it, we imagined it, we envisioned it. But we didn't just end there. There was a need for us to create the event flyer, to create the event details, to invite people for the event, to remind people for the event, to send out link for the event. As much as we believed that the event was going to hold, there was a place for us to do. So for most people, when we talk about faith, they, oh, I just have to believe and that's all there is. Believing doesn't mean fold your hand. Believing doesn't mean rest and just watch it happen. Believing doesn't mean, oh, you are not going to do anything at all. I love going back to the Bible references. Why? Because I'm a Bible student, I'm a Christian, and I love it. that even when God wanted to create the earth, create the universe, God, I'm sure God thought about it. He thought about it. But he, God thinking about the creation didn't just bring the creation into reality. There was a place for God had to speak. He said, God said, God said, God said, and it came to pass. So it wasn't just enough to think about it, to have the thought in our head and say, oh, I have this thought, it is good, it is beautiful. There is need for us to back it up with an action. So my question for you is the vision you believe, the goals you are believing in right now, the impact you believe you can make right now, what action steps are you taking to make sure that that becomes a reality? Take 1 minute, allow that sink in, and think about it again and again. Because it's very important we are very intentional and we are very realistic about this. The one quote says, faith opens the door, but action walks you through it. And that's the truth. It is the place you have to play to walk through those doors. So what are the action steps you're taking? You believe you can make impact. What can you do now to reach out to one person? What can you do now to reach out to 2 people? What can you do now to reach out to 10? Because it's the accumulation of those little milestones, those little efforts that compounds to bring us to the place where we can reach out to a lot of people. So faith is big, and I'm a big fan of faith. But if there's one thing I've learned again in faith, that is not just enough to have faith to believe. There is need for us to take action. And sometimes one of the actions we can take is to stay consistent in doing what you're doing, to stay consistent, to stay committed, and just to show up. Show up. A lot of people, oh, I believe I'm going to make $1 million or £1 million. I just believe it. A lot of people are like that. They just believe it. Oh, I believe I'm going to do this. Oh, that's why a lot of people will wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And then until they get old, what they believe in will never come to pass. Why? They left it in the place of belief and not taking action. I believe it, but what can I do to make this dream, to make this belief come to reality? What can I do? I remember for me, just having the vision to spread positivity to every corner of the earth. Now, I've never flew around the world, left my country to fly around the world, but I had a vision to reach out to the world. Fine and good. Were there limitations? Yes, there were limitations, but I had my belief. So what can I do to see that the belief I had becomes a reality? I had to take action. And one of the action I took for me is to make myself visible on the online space. And it became a game changer. So what I could have done by traveling around the world, I could still do it by using the power of social media to reach out to more people, to spread the message of positivity, to impact people with my message. I could have folded my hands and be waiting till the day I start to travel around the world. But I understood the fact that visions does not becomes reality just by believing on them alone. There is need for us to do, there is need for us to take action, and there is need for us to, to push ourselves. Because at the end of the day, your belief might start the journey, but what completes the journey for you is the actions that you take. I'll say this again. Your belief might start the journey, but what completes the journey for you is the action that you take. It is in taking the action there is fulfillment. It is in taking the action you find purpose. It is in taking the action you learn, you make mistakes, you learn, and you get better at it. A lot of people who are stuck in the place of just believing, they never learn. Why? Because they never make mistakes. They never face obstacles, they never face challenges. Why? Because they are just in the place of believing. But in taking action, you fail, you make mistakes, you learn from the mistakes, you are built from the mistakes, you are grown from the mistakes, and you become a better person one day at a time. So I encourage anyone out there, if you are believing, well done, congratulations, I salute you, I hail you. But if you truly want to succeed and see that what you are believing comes into reality, there is need for you to take action. There are people who just take action without believing. Yes, there are categories like that. That's why we started with the conversation of faith, where faith needs action. So believe and take action. So when you believe, taking action, becomes much more easier. Why? Because you believe that when you take action, the result will definitely come to pass. There's a lot to share on this conversation, and I believe that you know I don't just want to stress on it because this topic that is very dear to my heart, and because I believe that so many young persons out there, so many entrepreneurs out there who are stuck in the place of believing. I believe it will work out. Yes, it will work out. But what are you doing? What action step are you taking to make sure that it works out? We have to be accountable. We have to be responsible for ourselves. Let's not get too lazy and get stuck in the place of just believing. Being accountable, holding yourself responsible to do what you need to do. So there's enough of procrastination because, oh, I believe it will come to pass. What will be, will be. What will be, will be. But what are you doing to make sure that what will be, will be? What action step are you taking to make sure that that you believe be, will be? Is a big question that we keep asking ourselves every day. Let me end there. I know my co-hosts, they have a whole lot to say today, and I'm sure that special our guests will be joining us and still to be part of the conversation. Feel free. The link is on the screen. Click on it. It's going to bring you on the backstage where you can be able to share your thought and insight on this conversation. Yes, King Jimmy, you're welcome. It's so good to have you on the show. Yes, before we come to you, I'm just going to go straight to Mr. Amy. You can share his thought, then we'll go to King Jimmy. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
How you doing, Jamie? Good
I'm
to see
good. How are
you.
you? How are you guys?
Oh, we're here. It's Friday, right? No,
Yes, I apologize for running a little late. I was finishing up with a client, but better late than not coming on, right? So
no,
glad
no,
to
no.
be here.
It's a joy you're here. That's the important thing, right?
Yes.
I said, let me welcome Farid. How you doing, Farid? Welcome, welcome, welcome. To Alavine, I welcomed you. I welcomed you twice now. I saw you here. I had faith you'd be here sometime, and here you are. So that gives me joy. There's a couple more people to Dr. Anthony. I see you as well. To love and gratitude to Enya and Zion and Jamie. To God be glory that I'm here in the audience to learn tonight. My action has not made my faith enough, so I love to hear from others. I love that. We can never do enough. We can never be, so good that we know it all, and we've done it all. We can only say that when our time ends. Until the end, we keep striving to be better, right? Welcome, Dr. Anthony. I do see you. Do I see who else do I see? So amazing Crystal Bay is here as well. How you doing, Crystal? Great to see you. We missed you. I think you've been on holiday, Crystal. We must catch up. Tell me all about it, right? Say, Mr. Salisu, I see you as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So Alavin says, it's not Alavin. I miss what Alavin says. Alavin says faith. Big topic indeed. Believing is easy, exactly that. Faith is building, not just through actions. I believe I believe it's different from faith. Indeed, it really is. I think it is the important thing about the action part of faith, Mrs. Z, is what makes it happen, right? Many people have been there, they believe they have faith, and for many, nothing changes. I think that's due to the mismatch between belief and the need to take action. You know, for me, look, faith has many benefits, many, many, no, many. And I always say I'm not religious. I'm not going to go to church on Sunday. So and you rarely catch me praying, on any day. Alas, there's faith is in my life in a big way for the many benefits that I will share with you. So to start, look, I've lived a life of just doing, wanting and doing. I want to do, so I will do. Yes. It got me far. Don't get me wrong. Of course, it got me far. But when I realized that there must be a greater power than me, there must be something that directs our results more than we can, more than effort alone can. That's when I started giving faith space in my mind and in my life. Again, I believe it's important, but it's not enough. That's like saying, when you're hungry, eat a meal. Yes, of course, it's going to quench your hunger. Of course, it's going to satisfy a need right now. But I learned that you can't just eat once for the rest of your life. It doesn't work like that. Same way, you can't just have faith once and then that's it, right? And I say part of the actions, which is a benefit in itself. To some, it looks like a chore. So when I say I don't pray, I guess my belief is simply this: when you pray, you ask God for something or for things. Whereas when you meditate, you listen to what God says to you, because that's when God talks to you. So every day I will meditate. Of course I will. A friend called me this morning as I was about to do my meditation. I'm like, look, I have to do my meditation, and I want to hear what God has to say to me today. So that's part of it. It's realizing that your faith will bring you guidance, but what to do next, if only you listen. For meditation is a chance for me to quieten my mind and listen. And I will get instructions, I will get ideas, I will get guidance about what to do next. Does that mean I don't think of some of those things otherwise? Of course I do. They might come across my mind. But when I hear it in the calm quiet of my time of reflection and meditation, I take it more seriously. Which takes us on to another benefit of having faith, putting faith into action. So what I'm told in those moments, I will do. It's almost like, again, a question I've asked before. Annie, what would you do? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? If you knew it was divinely sent? So that's why if I hear it in my mind in my meditation, I will do it. Faith gives you the confidence to take action. It is almost on that level of, and Mr. Z said it as well. The results will come if you take the right action. So you might not know when, I don't know how, but when I put in power in faith, it gives you that knowledge that I know is going to happen. So I'll do what I know I have to do, and then I will do it as best I can. I'll do it for as long as I need to do it until I see the results. And that's the biggest power of faith. You see, in that line of thinking, you realize that faith gives you confidence in yourself. Faith says to you, you can't fail. You can do this. Again, I want to believe we don't get situations or circumstances that we can't handle. Our struggles, challenges that we can overcome. Other people have different struggles. Maybe the struggles that we can't overcome, that's why we don't face those ones. I truly believe that. There's nothing we can't do if we have faith. No, there's truly nothing that we can't handle. Like God wouldn't give us a burden that we can't carry. And look at it that way. Now, so then you realize faith gives you a sense of resilience, a sense of confidence in yourself, a sense of belief that you can do this. It's about us choosing to listen enough to take action. So I mentioned that when my day starts off with, it's a journaling, gratitude, do my gratitude and my meditation, essentially talking to God, right? From there, so that's a structure to your day. That's a structure to my day. I know what I'm doing when I get up. I know what first I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do for the first few hours of my day. And it's not just meditate for hours. There's no point doing that, right? I got 22-minute meditation that I do, and then I have to take the actions that have been given. And those actions normally mean helping people, doing things that help. Helping others is what we exist for, making humanity a better place. Faith gives us all of that. And there's a joy when we help people. There's a joy when we do the right thing. There's joy when we're a good friend, when we're a good brother, a good sister, a good business, a good service provider. That all comes from faith. It's a greater power than us. It's a bigger thing that in this thing that we call life, right? We just have to just truly believe, believe in ourselves, take the actions that we must, be good people, aim to help others. Knowing in the back of our mind, everything that we wish for will come in good time if we just keep doing the right things. I'll end this. I'll end it with this and pass the mic to Jamie and say this, right? I say the day I started realizing that faith has a place in my life, the burden is off my shoulders. I can relax and just focus on what I need to do today. And my life has changed. It's a wonderful thing. It's finding your way to that place of true peace in your heart, my friends. That's what it comes down to, right? The good things will come. I just keep trying to do my best to be a good person, and life is a great thing. It can be the same for all of us. I believe it's the same for all of us. I really, really do. I love to hear what you have to say on this topic, Jamie. You always share gems, my friend. Yeah, maybe you want to introduce yourself first.
Yeah, I can introduce myself quickly. That's fine. I mean, what you guys have both said are a lot of different things. When I think of faith too, it can be a religious thing, right? It can just be having the faith to do something, right? So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about that. But for those, I'll just kind of briefly introduce myself. I'm Jamie. I'm coming from the United States, right outside of Chicago, so about an hour away from the big city. And what I do is I have my own career coaching business. As you can see in the box right there, it says Jam Sessions with Jamie. That is my company, and I help people that are having trouble with their job search, right? So I help many different job seekers with building their resume, interview practice, helping them create a LinkedIn profile so they can get more visible in front of recruiters and hiring managers. So I help with all different aspects in the job search, and really help people to find their next opportunity and get the confidence they need to get hired, right? To get hired again, because we know that the job searches can be very stressful, very strenuous. And, pretty much what I'm there to do is help make it easier for people and help them get hired faster and get back on their feet. So that's a little bit about what I do. If anyone is struggling out there and looking for their next opportunity, feel free to reach out to me and we can have a conversation. I'd love to see how I can help you out. So that's a little bit about me. Talking about this topic, right? So we talk about faith, and I want to kind of compare this to how this kind of happens when it comes to positivity, right? So we know that like positivity, we talk about positivity all the time on this call, right? And positivity, to be positive, it's not just something you feel, right? It's something that you do, right? You want to be positive, you're going to take that action, right? but we're talking about faith in action and faith meeting action, right? And a lot of times when we think about faith, people talk about their belief first, right? They think that if I'm believing more in something and I believe that I can do this, everything's just going to fall into place and it's going to happen. Zion kind of talked about this a little bit, right? But when you believe in something and you think something's going to happen, you believe you're going to do well in this, and you're believing that this is going to happen, it doesn't always create results, right? We can believe as much as we want in that, but what really makes those results happen is the action, right? So, and that's kind of where positivity comes in, right? If you want to be positive in life, right, you got to take that action, right? So you can have a little bit of both. You could say, I have faith in myself that I'm going to do this. It's going to be a great day, right? And that faith is going to give you direction, right? That faith is going to point you in the right direction, and it's going to tell you what you can do, right? And for you to be positive and take that faith and that faith in yourself, the positivity is what's giving you the energy to do those things, to move on those things, right? But here's the problem, when you think about taking action and you have the faith to do it and you want to be positive, right? Sometimes then doubt starts to creep in, right? You start thinking to yourself, well, what if I think I'm going to do this, but what if it doesn't work, right? What if it's not going to work the way I want it to? What if I'm not ready to do this, right? What if I fail and I'm taking the jump to do something and I fail, right? That's when, your positivity sets in, and where positivity matters most, right? Positivity comes in a lot of different ways. We always talk about positivity on this call, and we talk about a lot of different topics, but sometimes positivity is not pretending that everything's going to be perfect the way you think it's going to be, right? But positivity is going to help you move forward in whatever it is you do, right? You might not have the answer to what you're trying to do or what you want to do, or maybe you don't have every single answer, but you can take that next step. Maybe you might not feel ready, but you're still going to do it because you're going to have that faith in yourself to know that I'm going to take this positive, I'm going to do it. And if I fail, you know what, that's okay, because I took the opportunity to do what I wanted to do, and I'm ready to fail if that happens, right? So that's really what faith meeting action means to me. Not everything's going to be perfect, right? But if you just have faith and you say this is going to happen and it's going to be a great day, like if you're not acting upon it, then all you have is faith, right? But you have to take action in that faith, and you have to bring that positivity on yourself. And you've got to be willing to know that if things don't work out the way that I think they're going to happen, that I think it's going to go, and if I stumble, that's okay. I'm going to pick myself up, and I'm going to have the faith to do it again and again, and I'm going to eventually get it right. And that's where that positivity comes in, right? So I guess what the bottom line is, what I'm saying is, you don't want to wait until you're ready to do something and just say you have faith in yourself. You need to just move forward and move on what you believe and keep moving forward and have that positivity in your life, and just realize that not everything is going to be perfect. So I kind of want to just be quick on that, right? But that's what faith meeting action means to me. And I'm curious to see what other people are talking about here when they talk about it. We see we already got Paul up here ready to speak shortly too, but I'll pass it over to you, Annie, if you want to say anything before we bring up the next person.
Thank you so much, Jamie. You're right for sure. Faith is about being intentional. It's leveraging that faith into us. They say we're made in the image of God. I take that a step further and say, we have God in us, right? So we have to take those actions. Dr. Paula, good to see you on stage. Well, I can't see you yet. I can see your lovely background.
I'm trying.
Okay, it's all right.
Oh, there it is. I got it working.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
You've joined us on an event. I tell you, I feel blessed now. See, there is a God. There has to be a God, right? Dr. Paul is here.
Thank you. Oh, it's such a. I love this conversation, and I love everything that everyone has said, and even in the chat. And what I wanted to share was, faith, belief, confidence, all the same thing. So we're not supposed to cast away our confidence because it's our great reward. So how do you learn that? You learn that as a little kid when you're crawling and want to get up and stand up and walk because you see something you want. And you get up and you're all excited and you run, run, run. And then you forget what you were going after. And so as we get older and the challenges are greater, going to school, graduating from school, working, or any of those things, and then life happens. Could be an illness with you, could be an illness with some of those challenges and all those things. They build your confidence and resilience within you, which builds your faith and that you can trust yourself. And then you begin to see how much God trusts you because the responsibility increases. And as it increases, so does your level of faith, so does the manifestation of opportunities and ideas and all kinds of wonderful things that you have been believing for. But the key to it is we already know we won. So now let's walk it out and see how we did it. And what I realized as I got older, not when I was young, because I ran ahead of everything. Okay. But when I got older at this stage in life, now I'm excited to see how I won and how I win every day. Because there's many things that I've done over the years that now are sprouting. You know, they were in the ground for so long, I forgot about them. And now all of a sudden they're popping up and they're sprouting. Just like any you charged me last year to write a book in 3 weeks. We did it and got it out for Christmas. So that was a challenging thing. When I tell you the opportunity that came from that journal, you'll never believe it, but that's another story. So it's wanting to know, how do I win in this? Even when you're dealing with the most tragic thing, like maybe a loss in a family or a loss in a business. And I've had a lot of those. I've had more failures than successes, but the successes were more significant because I overcame the failures. Because I knew, okay, it wasn't me, it was a strategy. So I may not have been mature enough. The business might not have been mature enough. It doesn't even matter what the problem was. The strategy wasn't right for that time. So when we're thinking about moving forward and we're thinking about real, true faith and understanding what that is in action, that's like trusting yourself and just going for it. Even if you're scared, you don't have confidence for something you've never done, but you do have confidence in knowing who you are, what your capabilities have been, and that if I walk into this new thing, I know I can contribute. And so that keeps you from being afraid because I know I'm good at me. Now, I might try this and it may work and it may not, but I'm only responsible for the output. I'm not responsible for the outcome. That's God's thing.
On mute. I love everything you've shared so far, Dr. Paula. It's a way to look at it for sure. The fact that with faith we give ourselves the time to see the fruition of the work that we've been doing and of the belief that we've had. All the things we've done up to a point. If we don't give it time, we're not going to see. And I like to say that the more faith we have, the more responsibility, the better the results. And yes, the more challenges, of course. But like you said, we know who we are by then. We have the confidence in ourselves, the belief in ourselves, belief in God. There's the greater force, that carried us this far will give us even more. It'll help us overcome, regardless, right? We'll win, and we'll keep winning. It is that true understanding of how we got here that will help us get to the next level. If we don't reflect and understand the journey, how we're going to make the next step. I do wonder. I think there's two things I think it's worth pointing out, especially Dr. Paul. See, many people won't necessarily believe. Most successful people, I would say, have faith in their lives. Well, no, of course, they won't mention it. You don't see it in the post, you don't see it in
No.
the content, but they really do. That's why I had to, in the end, appreciate that. Yeah, I might want to think it's all me, my effort, but in reality, the spiritual realm does bring something to us. So the one thing I think it definitely does, which you mentioned, Dr. Paula, is that word opportunities. There's miracles that suddenly happen in front of us. When we least expect it, maybe when we most need it. Sometimes, you mentioned you and I in your book. Jamie, I'm sure you got many miracles you can mention, where suddenly someone, right time, right place, and the right thing happens to us to move us to the next level. What can we blame that on? That's why I truly believe there must be a God. And the thing I would say is when there's opportunities, those things that can help us along that we didn't create ourselves, that we didn't see otherwise. Those miracle moments. I think when I feel the need to always take them, to go for them. No, if it's someone that you have to work with, for example, I'm saying I'm always open to that. And if God says, right, here's a person you need to take you to the next level, connect with them, meet them, and work and find a way to work with them. Like much like you are, Dr. Paula, right? You're not gonna find me arguing with God to say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm too busy. I mean, we have to understand. God does what God does, and we have to just embrace those opportunities and take advantage of them and put the work in sometimes. You know, and resilience, you and Jamie have mentioned, things will go wrong. It's for us to learn how to truly be stronger people. That's life. If we don't learn to be stronger, we're not growing. If we don't grow, we don't make progress. And if you're not growing, you're dying. Take your pick, right? And so I think we have to embrace those challenges for what they are. They're learning opportunities. They're not there to trip us up. They're there to help us more than anything else. Jamie, I wonder if you got any thoughts on what amazing thing Dr. Paula shared.
No, like I said, I mean, I think you covered a lot of that stuff. Like I said, I mean, we all have, I mean, everyone's really had some really good thoughts on different things when it comes to faith, because faith means a lot of different things, right? To a lot of different people. So hearing the different thoughts, from what she was saying and from what you were saying about the religious thing to what Zion was saying, and I don't think did Zion fall off the call, I think.
Yeah, I think his internet got him.
Oh, the internet took him down. Gotcha. No, like I said, I mean, we could talk so much about this topic and what faith means to a lot of people, and I think this is why it's so important, because everyone has different perspectives on what it means and what faith looks like when it comes to how we take action when we use it. So no, I think, like I said, there was a lot of good things coming from everybody. Paula, I appreciate you obviously kicking things off and starting the conversation. And yeah, like I said, it's good to hear the thoughts about a lot of different things, because faith means a lot of, there's someone else that just popped up. Awesome. So yeah, this is why I think this is a great topic, because we can talk about faith. And I think it's important for everyone to have some sort of faith, but what it means when it comes to taking action is how we kind of, perceive it.
Indeed, for sure. Now, Levine, welcome. We see you. So I'll come to you in a second. Dr. Paula, I love your comment. Faith in yourself lets you walk in God, in what God already said you've already won. See, that's true belief, right? That's knowing that whatever you want, the results you want is done. It's ordained. It's given. You just have to take the right steps towards it. That's all you have to do, right? Again, that takes away.
Go
Go on,
ahead. I'm
please.
sorry. I was going to say, I was laughing many times when I'm walking through stuff that I know I already won. I'm like, you know what? This is really a lot. Really? We got to go here? Do I got to really push through this? I think I might want to put that off for a little while or something like that. Or if it becomes too challenging and, you're just at the end of the race and you just need like that push of wind to push you to get up to keep going. And then all of a sudden, oh, this is what I was waiting for,
Mm.
and we all have those times of getting back up again, whether it's an illness, whether whatever it is, we're all going to have those times. And that's what builds resilience in us. And so it's
It
funny.
truly is. I think, so, and I do ask very often in this room, what would
Mhm.
you do if you knew that you couldn't lose? That's what faith gives you. If you know you won already, what wouldn't you do? It's more the question, right? I think
Exactly.
there's nothing you wouldn't do.
Mm-mm.
And that's how we have to face life if we actually want to do big things. And we must do big. We must do big things that help humanity for sure. Jay, I see you. Welcome, welcome, our storytelling genius. Of course, Professor Roxana, I see you as well. How's your Friday going, my friend? Alovine, you found your way. You found your way. How are you? You're still muted. Alovine, are you there? I know you're there, but oh, okay. Tech beats us. Look, there's one thing I want to say about faith for me. I think having faith gives me the opportunity every day to be grateful, to express gratitude. I literally, say, not literally, I say my journaling is thanking God for the things that I asked for that have happened, the results, the way, the good things that have happened in my life, basically. I don't know who I would thank otherwise if I didn't have faith. Yeah, and gratitude, I think, is so important for us as humans, for our well-being, for our spirit. For getting more of the good things in life. I wonder what you two make of that. Yeah, let me come to you first, Jamie, and then we'll go to Dr. Paula. You know, is gratitude a big? Of course, gratitude is a big thing in your life, Jamie. We'll do our gratitude session, right? So,
Yeah, can you in your I don't know if it was my internet or yours. It was kind of breaking up. Can you say that again really quick?
I said gratitude is a big thing in our lives, right? And I
Right.
think having faith gives me someone, something to be grateful for the good things that happen in my days. And so every day I express gratitude to God for the good things that have happened and the more good things that are going to happen. I don't know who I would thank. I don't know who I would be grateful to otherwise if I didn't have faith. So the question to you and Dr. Paula is, what role does gratitude play in your lives, and where does faith come into who you're thankful to when good things happen to you?
Yeah, that makes you make a really good point on that, because you're right. We always say we thank God for this. Like, who else are we really thanking that gave us the things in our lives, right? But for me, and I've talked about this on our calls in the past too as well, is keeping like a gratitude journal, right? And jotting down the things that we're grateful for. And every day when I wake up and I put 2 feet on the ground, right, and I have my eyes open in the morning and I can start my day, you're right. The first thing I do is thank God for, being healthy, for being able to wake up and be able to have a new day. And no matter what happened the day before, it's a new day to make things good, right? As I talk about, my grandpa used to always say every day, today is a good day, right? That was like his slogan. He would say, as long as I'm alive, today is a good day. So for me, yeah, I think I'm the same way. I always think, the guy upstairs, because, he's always watching over us, and, not just thanking him, but, I also kind of think, this is maybe just something that I think about, but I think about the people who I've lost in my life. I thank them too, because I feel like they're watching over me, right? I feel like my grandpa is always watching over me, and he's got a lot of grandkids to watch over, right? Because we got a big family. But I feel like he's watching over me, and when I do something and something happens, I think about what he would say to me, because he was my father figure growing up, because I didn't grow up with a dad necessarily. My dad left me at a young age, so my grandpa kind of played that father figure in my life, right? So I thank him for being there for me always. And I thank him for giving me what I have in my life, because without him, I wouldn't have some of the things, because once again, he was that father figure and taught me how to do certain things. And I kind of look to him for guidance and stuff like that. And that's where I get some of my gratitude from as well. So, it's important. We always got to have that gratitude and be thankful for the things we have, not the things that we think are coming, or think about the things we don't have. There's always things that we have that other people might not have, and we need to be thankful for those things. So that's kind of where I get my gratitude from, and who I thank, besides God, obviously. But Paula, what do you think about that?
I agree 100%. Being grateful and thankful to me are the same thing. And just being grateful and thankful for the family that I was born into and the relationships that I had with them while they were here. I know they're the force behind me, pushing me forward. I know that I didn't become the woman that I am because I went to school and I did all of these things. When I look back in my history and I saw that my great grandmother had graduated from college in 1894. So if I didn't go, why didn't I go? She did it back then when women weren't allowed, and families shouldn't be able to send their children to school. Why am I whining about this, that, and the other thing? And so when we start to look through our family and look at the gifts and talents of each individual and what they did or contributed or not, then we can really see that we're a sum total of everyone before us. And so we have a greater responsibility to move that forward for the generation coming, because it's not about me. Who am I not to do or move forward at this stage in my life at the best, the golden years, as they would say, because there's generations coming that need the wisdom, that need this, and don't need to start over again. And yes, we enjoy doing business, making money doing it. And we enjoy being able to set those things up and necessary and in motion for generations to come. But those that are walking along and watching us, that we know and don't know, they need an example. They need hope. They need someone that's speaking in a way that they've not heard before, and that encourages them and inspires them to step up and do more. you know. So those days when I was in college for my bachelor's degree, and I'm struggling with a test and everything, and my father looks at me and like, "What? So what? I don't care." You know, if your grandmother could do it, you can. And then I had my other grandmother who graduated from Juilliard. Okay, so now how are we going to not move this thing forward here? And so, yes, I have a lot of education, a lot of all that stuff, but it didn't come because I did it. It came because it was being pushed forward to me to continue to achieve and become the highest level of individual I'm supposed to be, because God wants to work something through me. So, what does God want to work through you? Also, if you may not have family history, perhaps you're the one to establish it. Perhaps you're the one to do something so unique that has never been done before. It will move the whole generations to come. So it's so exciting to figure life out as we go and be grateful for every little thing we experience, as well as the big things. Whether the birds are chirping when you're going outside, or the sun is shining, or just, I don't know, you were able to figure something out you couldn't figure out, to the greatest opportunities being presented to you every day that you experience with new people. All of those things, to be grateful, to be able to just share my thoughts and you want to hear it on this show. I'm grateful. You know what I mean?
It's all that, right? It's all that, Dr. Paula. It's all that. I think, it's the fact that having faith gives us a way of looking at the world in a peaceful way, a way of being at peace with
Yeah.
ourselves. Like you say,
Hmm.
those things that happen to us, they happen for us if we look at it from a faith-based way. It might be like you say, to guide us, to inspire us, or it might be that to help us understand that we are the shining light. We're there for
Hmm.
that we're there for a reason. That everything that I think Jimmy made a point, which I think that I wanted to emphasize. Sometimes things don't go the way we want. Things don't happen for us. And that's that. I can understand that's the quickest way to lose faith. It's the quickest way to say, oh, well, there can't be a God. I asked, it didn't happen. But I think you can look at it the other way and flip it completely and say it didn't happen because it was not the right time. God knows when the right time will be. Again, faith is what helps you understand the difficult moments. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means it wasn't the right time for you. Does that mean it's never going to happen? No, of course not. Like you're saying, like it may be further down the line is going to happen when we're ready, when we're better placed, right?
Yeah.
It's I
And
think
then it
it's
may
just something.
be, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please, no, please.
Go ahead.
Well, I almost finished. Say, I think, like you say, it may be like God knows best, and what that looks like. It's not for us to know. I think you said it earlier, and it's for us to just follow the process, keep doing the right things. Keep thinking the right things, and the results will come when the time is right.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I've learned to be grateful for everything that didn't happen, every no, and every bullet I dodged. All of those things. I was like, at the time, I might have been, oh, why didn't I get it? And I am so thankful for every door closed, every relationship that I need to have, every no that I had. I am so looking back, it all makes sense. And I am so grateful because I wouldn't be here if all those no's were yeses.
Yeah, yeah. And it is bullets dodged, as you say. Dr. Cooper. It really is. But again, I get it, my friends. We're all human. I've been there where I didn't get the job, and I'm like, the world is wrong. It's so unfair. I didn't get the clients, and I'm just thinking, no, this is terrible. But whenever I look back, I think I dodged a bullet there, literally. I think for most of us, if we look at the things that we don't get, you know, we will be grateful when we look back in retrospect. Now, going forward, it can be hard to understand that, but I think looking back, it becomes very clear. You know, Jamie, say, and I'm picking up on your point that the things that don't happen to us. It's really a bad thing. If faith helps us understand, sometimes it is a bullet. It is God saving us from something that wasn't right for us. At best of times, Of course, in your career counseling world, you must meet clients every day, almost every day, who begrudge, bemoan not getting that job. Yeah.
Yeah, always. Yeah, I mean, it weighs on you like like a burden on your shoulders. You start doubting yourself. And, a lot of people I work with are doubting themselves and wondering, well, I got all this experience, and why can't I just get something? Is it something wrong with me? And it starts creeping in, right?
Well, I said, faith will help us to understand there is a right job, but perhaps waiting for you. There is that one that you thought is a perfect one. It's not. It doesn't. It wasn't a perfect one.
Right. Yep. And sometimes it's not meant to be, and you have to understand that the right one comes around. And I heard Paul mention no's and yeses. Right. I always tell people, like, who cares about? You're going to get a bunch of no's in life. I mean, it's going to happen, but that's not the focus, right? The focus is in getting that one yes. Because I promise you, when you get a yes in life and you do great, and you get a yes and you get a job, the first thing that's not coming to my mind when I get a yes is, oh my goodness, I can't believe I got all those no's before this. Like, you don't forget about all those. Those don't matter to you. Those people aren't even important to you anymore. What's important to you is what's in front of you, and you got that yes. And don't worry about what happened in the past. This was the job that was for you, and this is what fell into place. And there's a reason why this is the one that worked out. Now run with it. Take the ball and run with it.
Yeah. I love that. It is. This is the one to focus on and give your all. Not by lamenting spilled milk.
Right.
People think, what could have been that wasn't.
Exactly.
Look, I say, it's an interesting topic. I say, I'm glad, I think we started on it. I'm not minded to keep us longer than we have to be here. So I think, we got, I think we've shared a lot of good stuff. Faith is about truly believing and trusting your high, the greater power than us, and trusting your higher self. To take that, to do the right things, and to have that faith in ourselves first and foremost. First of all, have the faith in yourself to take action. This is our time. This is our moment to do what we want to do. And we have to truly believe that's it. If we doubt that, without faith, in other words, we are lost. And we'll miss the opportunities that's truly in front of us. So Dr. Paula, Jamie, any last points you want to make before we go?
No, I think there was a lot of good stuff mentioned here. I know we're kind of, still, we could stay on the call for a little bit longer. I wish there was more people who wanted to jump up here and share their thoughts, right? Because it's a safe space. We all want to hear from people, right? But no, I think there was a lot of different, like I said, we heard a lot of different perspectives on what faith meant, and we tied it into positivity too as well. No, like I said, this was a really great conversation. If anybody else wants to come up before we end the call, we still got 15 minutes. I mean, I don't know my chat's working specifically, but has anyone mentioned anything in the chat lately? Because I haven't seen it moving a little bit.
Yeah, there are a couple of good comments, and Alavin did come up, but we seem to we lost her.
Yeah.
As Alavin says, taking responsibility for our actions and words. Yes, for sure. I think it's on us to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
It's on us to help each other, to be helpful to each other, to be good friends, to be good people.
Yeah.
And when we don't, it's on us.
Yep.
Again, so many people know the right thing to do, but they just don't want to do it, and they blame something else.
Right.
So we have the answers because God gives us the answers. Essentially, that's the way I look at it. If we don't take action on those, we can't blame anyone else, right? It is, and when we do take those actions, which can be uncomfortable, which it can be difficult at times. But it's our responsibility, exactly that. As Alexis says, it's for us to put faith to work. I say I'm not one to say pray, or meditate. I wouldn't even say go to yoga classes or a yoga retreat necessarily. You can hear from your spiritual side, and you can get spiritual guidance without doing the religious things. It's just a matter of just quieting your mind, listen, and be willing to take the right action that is the right thing to do. That's what listening really does to us. Dr. Paula, what do you want to leave us with today, my friend?
Well, I would say, I said it before, be patient in the process. Life. Time is your friend, and don't try to get to the winter time before you get to enjoy the spring.
Yeah.
Walk it out. Walk it through, because you're going to have hard times. You're going to wonder why. I know when I was caregiving for my mom, and she was the last one, my cousins and I all at the same time in the last 6 months, we lost everybody. And that was a lot for the whole family to take a hit. But each of us leaned on each other, and we made it through. And here I am today, and I wrote a book about it. So it wasn't so much that I was there to write the book. I was there to tell about the encore story after every hit. How do you get back up again? And what did you gain, and what lessons did you learn so that you can get back up again? Because it's not going to be rosy. Yeah, this time I'm happy and joyful because I've walked through a whole lot of stuff. And we all have things we will face, but that's why we have joy in our soul, because we've overcome that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And if you haven't taken a look at the Encore playbook, then you have no idea what Dr. Paula is talking about. No, but check out her book. Dr. Paula, put the link in the comment, please. So I think,
Okay.
the Uncle Playbook is it's a good metaphor, if you ask me, for what we're talking about today. A lot of people will tell you, I'm of an age, it's too late. I'm 45, I'm 50, I'm 40 half the time. I heard that yesterday. I said 40 I said, it's too late. I'm like, really? You really believe that? You're done at 40? So then I'm 51. And I haven't even started yet. I'm saying that's what the Uncle Playbook is all about, really. The
And
fact
I'm
that,
67 and I'm just getting started. So
exactly.
if you're 40 and you think you got a long way to go.
You need to have faith. You need to have faith, right? You gotta do
Yes.
it.
I'm not sure it's letting me do it in the StreamYard. So I think I may have to go to the LinkedIn
Work.
page.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it doesn't work in the StreamYard. I got to go to the LinkedIn page.
Okay. Okay. No. Mr. Joseph, I see you. Chuku, thanks for joining us. Never too late. There was always a chance to watch a replay for sure, right? So welcome. I do see you. Look, my friends, say, God's told me to be kind to all of us, and give us half an hour of our lives back that we're never going to gain otherwise. So once Dr. Paula shares the link to her book, now do check out the Uncle Playbook, and there is the Uncle Reset Journal as well. Those are just her first two books. When she says she's just getting started. The next big book is coming. With the next big manuscripts of how to get there, how to truly transform your life. So again, maybe they say that's another part maybe that we should bear in mind, right? We're given God-given gifts. We all have God-given gifts. If you deny the spiritual side of you, then I don't know how you're going to find that God-given gift. But we must find that gift, and we must live the purpose to serve others that we've been given. It's not going to be easy, but it's what life is, right? I said, okay, this is Dr. Paula's Uncle Playbook and Journal. It's available now on Amazon. So do take a look. If you're middle aged, especially, it's a call to action to realize that you are not done by a long way. The first part of your life, the play called life, is in your early years. When you get to 50, you have that chance to start the second act of your life. That's why it's called the Encore Playbook, not the Encore as actors do on stage, right, Jamie?
Yeah.
About do another one, right?
Right. There you go.
That's what it's all about. Look, my friends, do join us again. Connect with us, connect with the people in the audience. Connect with Dr. Paula, especially, of course. And connect with Mrs. Zion if applying anything we talk about is especially difficult. He's there to help you apply positivity, which essentially means living with intention, living with joy in your heart. Than doing, I guess, the things that you're meant to be doing because it's what has been given to you as an assignment. It's a realization, Jamie. Anyway, it's always a joy, my friend. Look,
Always a good
everyone,
conversation. Yes, always a great conversation. I'm looking forward to what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah, they say enjoy your weekends, my friends. Enjoy your weekend and join us again next Friday, same time. And we shall have another angle to faith and how we can apply it in our lives. Take care, everyone. Take care. Have a good one.
See you all later. Have a great weekend.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
She's success with Global.Media.com and celebrating with the without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.